So David and Stephen, I'm glad that you're here for another session. As you can see, today is going to be a little bit different. We do have a recording device for today's session. And as I mentioned before, that there will be times that we may record a session or two. I want to assure you confidentiality will still remain in this room. If anyone will review this recording, it will be myself and possibly my supervisor. So I wanted to make sure I established that with both of you, that you know that there's still confidentiality. If anything, this is going to be more reference and training, being that I still am an intern student.
So I won't find this on YouTube anywhere?
No, it will not be on YouTube. We will keep this confidential. So I wanted to make sure you both at least knew that. Are we comfortable with being able to move forward with our recording today?
Oh yeah, we love cameras.
Okay.
Honey, I'm sorry.
Well, I know that we were able to have a great breakthrough yesterday. I mean, not yesterday, but our last session with what we were able to discuss, and that you both saw that first line of connection and communication. So tell me, I mean, how have you both been able to feel from our breakthrough from last week? Tell me a little bit about how you both feel.
When you said what do I do to support Stephen, it really made me pause and think that maybe I don't support him as I should. I mean, it really, like a hammer to the head.
Okay.
I really had to take a step back and see if I was doing all I could to support him. I mean, it really, really affected me all week.
Okay. And I know when we discussed opportunities for you to look at being supportive, because I know that's where you want to be, we talked about visiting PFLAG again. How did that go?
And that's why I went, because I wanted to be more supportive, like sort of a wake-up call. It was okay. A lot of cute guys, but it was good. A little, I was really nervous.
Okay.
I mostly just listened, but it was, I think, a really good first step, and it felt good for me.
Okay.
That I was doing something
Good.
for you.
Now, Stephen, how do you feel hearing David's, openness and wanting to show that support? How does that help you?
Well, it really makes me happy, that he heard me. I felt like I was heard for the very first time. I felt that I was understood, even with our last session, and he did sort of, I could see it in his eyes that, it's probably caught him off guard, and he did have that moment wherein he felt that, he wasn't being as supportive, and, I love David to death, and I just appreciated the fact that he took the first step in going to PFLAG and at least making that step. I'm very proud of him for doing that, sweetie.
Thank you.
I'm so happy that he did that. So yeah, overall, I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful for the future.
Okay. Well, I see that we're growing here, and that's the important thing, and I'm hoping as we're continuing our sessions that we see that internally we are evolving, that we're becoming more open to not only ourselves but each other. And that's the biggest connection I want to have is you both are very well aware of your own emotions, but we want to ensure that you're both aware of each other's emotions, and I think that's what's going to help build the bond between both of you. Now, for Stephen, I understand how David is starting to get some perspective in seeing you and knowing your dangers and what you're going through and your pressure. However, I want you to be able to start understanding David's side on his frustration and where he's going through where he doesn't see progress from you. And I know when I asked you of seeing a referral that you didn't want to, you didn't feel comfortable, that you weren't really sure that was the right step for you. So I took a step back where I wanted you to talk to your Uncle Pino, correct? And learn about his scenario and what his life was like when he came out, being that he's in the same family. Did you get to go meet with your Uncle Pino and talk to him?
Yeah, actually, it was very, I thought it was a very interesting meeting. I have a good relationship with my Uncle Pino. I really admired that, he took a stand, and so, but it was something that I've never asked him before. He is aware that I'm gay. However, again, it's something that we have never discussed before because it's his process. And so when I talked to him, actually we met up like a couple of days ago, and for me it was very it was an eye-opener. I knew that it was difficult for him, being sort of ostracized, you know, excommunicated from the family, you know, if you put it that way. But I just sensed, you know, in his eyes, like I could just see a sense of sort of feeling of liberation, a sort of freedom that I sense just from his words. And so for me, I wasn't quite sure like how to put it together, because I still have some of my, you know, difficultness about, you know, telling my mom or my family about it. But I can see that he was very happy with his decision. He was very content with his decision, albeit it being hard. It seems that he was happy with the decision. And so that sort of, it struck me. I'm not quite sure what to do with that, but I was struck.
Okay. Well, now, here's a big thing that I was able to pick up from this conversation, and I want to know if this was something that anyone else noticed in the room. You said your uncle knows about you being homosexual. Is he the first person that probably in the family knows?
Yeah, he probably is. He is the first one.
Now, did you come out and tell him you were gay, or
No.
was it something that he assumed?
He assumed, and we sort of, I couldn't remember when it was or what it was, but he sort of made a remark, and then we just, you know, looked at each other, and we had that sort of moment wherein we both knew.
Kind of like that silent acknowledgement that
exactly.
he knows you and what you're going through.
Yeah, he knows, and so it was nothing that we do not talk about it freely.
Okay.
But it's sort of like a secret understanding, if you will.
Didn't he want you to come out?
What was that?
Didn't he want you to come out?
Well, he did. You know, I mean, Uncle Pino, again, he was just very, you know, he knows that it was hard, so that's probably the reasons why, one of the reasons why he didn't really pressure me, yeah.
But knowing that he knows, you know, how did you feel having a family member know that you're gay? How does that feel now, knowing there is someone else that knows and it's in the family?
It gives me, you know, it gives me a sort of reassurance that somebody who has the same sexual orientation as I do is aware, and so I have that little bit of backing, if you will.
Okay.
I have that sort of, you know, person who will be there just in case or during that time. I mean, I know what you mean, honey, but somebody in the family, in my side.
Okay.
So, you know, just in case it comes to a point where everybody knows, I know there's going to be somebody on my side. You know, aside from David.
So you feel that there's now an extra person of support.
Yeah, you could say that. Yeah.
Sounds like a good feeling to have that, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I never really thought about it, but yeah.
So you ready?
No, honey, I mean, again, like what I I said earlier, it's still, I mean, I'm not quite sure, but but again, I was stuck. I was feeling a little bit emotional, you know, when I talked to Uncle Pino, so.
Remember, David, throughout this, that we know that there's a goal that, yes, Stephen does want to come out. However, this is something that we want Stephen to make that decision. And that your goal in their relationship is to be that
I
support.
really need him, and I'm trying to be supportive. I really am.
I don't know,
I
honey,
just-
you know, though.
I just want to see her go so we can be together, and it's so hard.
And I can see that's where the frustration is, and that's where I'm wanting you to at least hear where Stephen's coming. And as you see, do you feel that now from our first session to today, do you see that he's coming closer to this being a reality versus just words as you first spoke
I'm
about?
afraid to be hopeful, but, you know, if Uncle Pino knows, you know, that's a good sign.
That's progress, right? And again, we know that we're taking time to make this happen. This isn't something that we just rip off a Band-Aid and see what happens. You know, this is something where Stephen feels it's gonna kind of destroy his life, and we want to try to help alleviate that. You know, and that's probably why I want to go into our next step before I just ask a little bit more. which is going to be a little bit of a role play. And I want to make sure that this is kind of giving us both a little bit more perspective when it comes to what we're looking at on progress. But now tell me about your Uncle Pino's relationships. I know you said that he's been ostracized and was separated from the family. I know you have a relationship with him. Is there anyone else that has now been able to form a relationship with your uncle, or is he still not, in the family? Tell me a little bit about that.
He's been able to at least get a little bit, I would say, trying to establish a little bit more with my mom.
Okay.
There's been that one already,
Mm-hmm.
but I would still say it's at least the feelings are not that harsh anymore.
Okay.
They're slowly building, but it's still gonna take some time.
Okay. But with his sacrifice, he was still able to find happiness. Would you agree to that?
I would say there's some sense of, again, like what I said, it seemed like he was happy with the decision.
Mm-hmm.
It seemed that he was liberated with the decision. I can't speak for the happiness. For me, it was my feeling that he seemed happy.
Okay.
Okay.
So what I would like to do, like I mentioned, we're going to do a little bit of a role play. And Stephen, it's going to be hard for you, and David, it's probably going to even be harder for you. Because David, what I want you to do is, you feel pretty comfortable knowing Stephen and how he is with his mannerisms and how he is on being conservative.
Ugh, you don't know how comfortable I am. I know like the back of my hand.
Okay. Well, that's why this is going to be a challenge for you, because I know you're very free-spirited. But on this role play, what I would like you to do is I want you to be Stephen. And I want you to be able to have that opportunity where, as you said, it's easy to come out, it's easy to come out, it's easy to come out. I want you to be able to have that conversation as Stephen with Stephen, because I want Stephen to hear how it's going to sound. But not only that, I want you to see how he may be reciprocated on that by his mother. So you are going to be Stephen, and then Stephen, you are going to play your mother. Because David, unfortunately, you do not know Stephen's mother. You don't know how she would react. But Stephen will have a little bit more familiarity with that. So I'm hoping that we're going to be able to see some insight here from being able to do that. How does that sound as an opportunity?
Just go for it.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
I can role play. I took acting in junior college.
Okay. Now remember, as much as you are you inside, you're David, and there may be some things that you would want to say as David, you are at this time Stephen. So I want you to make sure you're holding those parts of David to come out, because you need to really embody what Stephen would say, because this is going to help him hear how it's going to come from him, okay?
In a suit or something to look lawyery.
You're the great actor, so I want you to pretend you have that suit. You are. And then, Stephen, as much as David may say something that you don't think you would say, you're just more going to listen and make sure you're your mother, okay? And again, don't input what you think your mom would say in regards to the worst case scenario. Try to be open as you're hearing what is being said, okay? So you could throw some worst case scenarios out, however, you want to look at the reality and make sure you think of your Uncle Pino when you're doing this, and some of the sacrifices he took to come out. Does that help?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, I want you to really kind of
You want me
feel
just to
this.
come out?
It's going to be, how would Stephen do it?
He would just come out and be very blunt about it. That's how I foresee it. Let's do this.
Okay. So let's go ahead and do this role play, okay? And whenever you're ready to start, go ahead.
Okay. So I'm gonna be my mom.
You're going
right?
to be your mom.
And I'm going to be you.
Okay.
That should be a song.
So it would be basically when I'm having the big talk with my mom, or
Yeah.
coming out?
Yeah,
Okay.
we're going to have you coming out to your mom, because that's probably the first person you're going to come out to.
Yeah.
Hello, Mom. How are you?
Good. Good. How about you?
Excellent. Doing very well. Business is good. I'm doing excellent. I have something very important I need to share with you.
Okay. What would that be, my son?
Have a seat. And I want to be open and honest. And I want to just let you know beforehand how much I love you and the family, and how much everybody means to me. I wanted to tell you, Mom, that I am gay. homosexual, if you
You know what happened to Uncle Pino, right?
Yes, he's doing great. He's a fine gentleman. I've spoken with him.
Okay. Do you remember the time that we found out about Uncle Pino and how that was for the family?
I remember it being very difficult, yes.
And do you remember how everybody reacted and how everybody was just disappointed and how everybody for a time stopped talking to your Uncle Pino because of it? It was about the disappointment and probably.
But Mother, I'm living a lie. I would think that you would want me to be able to tell you anything, and that you would want me to lie to you, that you want me to be honest, and therefore I'm being honest with you. And I realize the consequences might be difficult, and that's why it's taking so long for me to bring this up to you.
I know, sweetie, but I'm just I'm worried about some hardships that you may face. I know that it's been hard since Dad died, and you have been a very responsible son.
Yes, I have.
And you have a good position at your job, and so as a mother, I am very worried about some backlash that you may face from the family. I just want to protect you from that.
I completely understand and I appreciate that, Mother. I just wanted to tell you to be the first one, because I don't want to live a lie anymore. And I love this very, very cute man that I would like for the family to meet. He's wonderful. I don't want to live that lie and live two different lives anymore.
Let's stop here. That was very hard, wasn't it? How did it feel for you, David, being Stephen?
Rigid, stiff.
But just.
The hardest part was just saying the word gay.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know how to say it.
You paused.
I didn't
You
know.
paused a lot.
But I was glad she didn't scream and yell.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't know how to say it. I wanted to say it as non-threatening as possible.
But did it feel easy?
Not at first.
Mm-hmm.
But she didn't get angry, which was, I don't know if it was going on inside.
Mm-hmm.
But
How would you
I was
react?
uncomfortable. I was squirming inside.
So it kind of gives you a little bit of an understanding of where Stephen would be coming from now and why he's probably been delaying this. Would
That's
you
what
agree?
she's saying, yes.
Huh? Does it give you a little bit of, I could see. I mean, how do you see that? Do you?
I'm torn. I can see that it would be difficult, definitely. I mean, I can understand that. But on the other hand, I don't understand why you just don't do it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I can see where it would be hard, but yeah, it's hard, but a lot of things are hard. Just do it.
Mm-hmm.
If you really love me, you would do it. So I'm torn. I don't know what to do.
Okay.
I want to be supportive, but I also want to give you a little kick and say, just do it, get it over with.
Mm-hmm. Now,
That's how I feel.
okay. So Stephen, seeing David play you, how did you think he did?
I mean, it was very straightforward. I think that was a good, it was a good way of putting it. That's probably exactly how I would talk to my mom.
Okay.
Very straightforward. But it was, I don't know, I've never really, in the beginning, before we did this exercise, I thought, hey, this would be easy, I know my mom, I have a good relationship with my mom, but saying those words, I mean, I was getting kind of, you know, just choked up a little bit, you know, about my mom, and so I could sort of, you know, picture it, you know, how my mom would think, and so it was pretty, there was something going on there. Yeah, just me talking about like the disappointment and stuff, and so that sort of, you know, did something for me. It was kind of,
Good or bad?
I mean, I would say it was, I could see how my mother would react to it.
Mm-hmm.
She wouldn't exactly, I feel like maybe she wouldn't exactly be angry at me, but it was more about worry. She's just worried. My mom is worried. I mean, she's been constantly, you know, caring for her kids, her 4 kids, for the longest time since my dad died, and so she just wants the best for her kids. I think that's basically what had come out, you know. It was tough. It was tough.
Okay. And that's what I want you at least to both have, is some perspective. Obviously, we're not having a magic wand where I can remedy this problem where everyone walks out happy. However, that we're gaining some perspective and some progress, and that you see together that you'll be able to move forward as we're continuing. So what I'd like to do, because we are coming to a close at this time for our session.
Oh my goodness.
I know, it went through pretty fast, but I could see at the same time it was kind of draining. You know, we had a lot come out today. It is. So for our next session, what I'd like, if we can, is David, please go to another session over at PFLAG with the family meetings to support. Because as you see, with family having a support system, you know, it's very big in having that help for Stephen. You know, and again, just being able to start gaining more trust and being able to have more open line of communication where it's not only talking about coming out the closet is the only conversation you two have. You know, and I'm hoping that this role play does kind of help give you some idea that when you want to talk about it, that it's not
You know
as
what we need to do? We need to role play with me being the mom.
Mm-hmm.
So you can practice, honey. You can just practice and practice and practice.
Yeah.
Let's do that.
That would be a great idea. However, I want to make sure that we're doing that in an open environment where probably I'm going to be here to kind of ensure that we're all on the same page, because if we do it at home, that might, it could probably go bad, you know, and we don't want to move backward on our progress. Maybe we can look at doing that next week if that's something that you both want to do. And then for you, Stephen, I know you have that kind of that non-verbal affirmation with your uncle that he knows you're gay. But how about we practice having that conversation maybe with him this week and saying it. See how you feel. Write it down, you know. Take those emotions in, saying to your uncle, you know, because as you mentioned, it's going to be hard to say to your mom. Maybe have that conversation with your uncle who knows and see how that feels. Do you think you can do that this week?
I think so. I mean, I feel pretty safe with my uncle, so.
Okay. So we're just going to take some mild steps, you know, and then we'll talk a little bit about next week, see how we did, and see if we maybe want to do that role play. And again, if Stephen doesn't feel ready, we're not going to make him, but we're here to be able to encourage and support one another, correct? Okay, great. And then we'll go ahead and go into our next session next week.
Thank you so much.
And we're done.
Record, right? Did